Welcome, I'm your host, Malcolm Gallagher. From our BizVision studios in the UK, you're watching across the world the BBTV Leadership Matters channel. Now, it may be fun to participate in, but make no mistake, sport is a business all around the world. But I'm not concerned about the club owners or the investors. That's their risk. My concern is the thousands of dedicated athletes, because that's what they are, who give it their all, often for a brief career. What happens to them when the roar of the crowd dies? How do they make the change to a new career? And what skills do they take with them? I wanted to find out how easy or hard it is to make that change, to start a new career after sport. So one of my recent guests, Dom Einhorn of Unicorn, is also president of the renowned Sarlat Rugby Club in France. And he introduced me to two transforming players. And by that I mean that making the change to business whilst they're still playing. So come with me to the beautiful town of Sarlat to meet the Sarlat rugby team captain and a team leader for Unicorn and the esport platform Formation.gg. Welcome, Lucas Canada. Welcome, Lucas.
Hey, Malcolm. Nice to be here with you guys. It's a pleasure to be here. So thanks for having me. And
I'm looking forward to our totally looking forward to our chat, Lucas.
So do I.
I'm delighted you're guesting, because I've been talking to your colleague, Sarafan Bodoli. So my viewers and listeners are getting two Sarlat stars, but importantly, some thoughts and tips that will be of value to anyone. In this BBTV talk show, I'll be talking to Lucas in three parts. First part, I'll ask him what he thinks a player, especially of his caliber, generally brings to a business, especially a startup. Is it game planning, strategy, discipline, a win mentality? What? In part two, I'll ask him his thoughts on losing. After all, we all do it at some time, and the pandemic has illustrated that. How do you and your team regain motivation, create resilience, and what part does analysis play? In part three, I'm asking Lucas for his personal thoughts and where does the synergy between sport and business work for him, especially with his work with both Unicorn and Formation.gg. But Lucas, before we get into our three-part talk, can you please briefly introduce yourself to my viewers and listeners? Who is Lucas Canada? What drives you personally? And what's your personal vision? What makes you jump out of bed in the morning? Oh, and what is Formation.gg, by the way?
Yeah, sure, Malcolm. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Argentinian. I'm 30 years old, and I've played rugby for all my life. It's always been my passion. And when I got old enough, I wanted to fulfill my dream, that was to play professional rugby. So 5 years ago, I came to France to fulfill that dream. I played 4 years of professional rugby in second division here in France. And at the end of that time, I started to ask myself what to do after that. And that brought me to meet Dom and start with a bit of change and keep the professional rugby on one side, but also start thinking of what's coming next, you know?
Yeah. What is Formation.gg, by the way, before we move on?
Yeah, sure. Formation.gg is one of our big projects here in Unicorn. It's an esports platform that allows you to play tournaments, create articles, have a special leaderboard, and engage with other esports members and gamers, as we like to call them, but always having in mind the relationship that we have with sports and esports, because we think it's just one extra sport, you know?
Yeah. I'm sure many people during lockdown, I know one of my son-in-laws has certainly is racked up the hours on esports, particularly on Football League Manager and things like that. It's an incredible time, isn't it, for it?
Yeah, I mean, even before COVID, the business was skyrocketing. And during the last 12 months, the numbers we've seen, I mean, it's just over the roof.
Yeah. Wow. Excellent. Okay. Let's move on to part one. Let's kick off, and I'll say that again, no pun intended. I'll talk with what do sport professionals, especially of your caliber, generally bring to a business? And again, especially a startup. Is it game planning, strategy, discipline, a win mentality? What do you think?
I think there's a couple things that we bring to the table that are very important in every startup. The first thing is that we know how to overcome challenge, and we've all experienced bad times. We've all got big hit eventually on rugby in this case, but in every contact sports, you need to be able to overcome problems. And if you think yourself as a startup, you experience that every time. It's just you against the world probably at the beginning. So you need to be able to roll your sleeves, as we'd like to say, and get your hands dirty and start working. And if it's not you who's doing that, nobody else will do it for you.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of our big characteristics, and we know what we're talking about. Another aspect that we have in mind and we've always lived upon, rugby being a team sport, is that we know how to create teams and work as a team. Because in every startup, it's very hard to succeed if you're alone. So the ability to create the teams that are going to work and make you succeed, it lowers the risk in every startup by at least 50%. So
wow, let's just stop there, Lucas, because that's an important point. You're just going to just say that again, so let my viewers listen to that 50%. Just tell us it again.
Yeah, for sure. If you check the statistics for startups, 1 out of 10 succeed. So that means 9 startups fail. Right, because the risk is too big, and it might be, there's a lot of things to overcome. And if you manage to put a team in place that will work it out, and that team is capable to not think about themselves, but think, what can we achieve as a team, as a group? Then the risk gets at least 50% reduced. Wow, which is a lot. Yeah,
it's phenomenal. I've never heard that before in my career, and that is a really exciting part. And thank you very much for inputting that there. I just feel that there's a number of other things that people bring, and we'll talk about that as we go through our chat together. But one of them is, I've got to say, is energy, surely.
Yeah, I mean, we're not afraid to work, right?
Yeah, that's it.
And we've been working out since we were kids, and we know that we need to put effort into it if we want it to get there. When I was young, and everyone kept saying that I was not going to be able to play professional rugby because I was too small.
Hey, I'm the same height, 5'7". We're both 5'7", aren't we?
Yeah, that's it. And I say, hey, you say I won't, but I say I will. And how will I do it? Well, I'll work harder than the others. I'll do extras that the others don't do. And if I need to wake up earlier in the morning, I'll do it. If I need to stay up longer, I'll do it. And when it comes to a startup, it's the same mentality that you need to have.
Yeah. I was just thinking of something else. I was telling you before, my wife and my son, one of my other sons, are avid rugby people, and they keep telling me about on the pitch how you've got to be quite resilient, because the other players will start saying nasty things about you. I met your mother last night, and all those sort of things. Yeah. So you've got to be able to wash that off. Is that true?
Yeah. Well, you should have been to Argentina and watched a couple of games, and it gets worse than that. I can tell.
Oh, right.
I remember that sometimes when you play away games, some people would throw oranges to you while you're playing, for instance, or even from the outside. Not just the people inside, and the refs won't do anything about it. And need to keep going, right? If you get lost and you start quarreling with the others instead of focusing on what you need to do, you're lost.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. And, pulling it back to startup, there'll be plenty of people it will say to you, well, it won't work. You won't win. But you've got to be resolved to win, haven't you? Lucas, just before we go into part 2, I'd like to remind viewers and listeners of your website's URLs. Now, let me just give you, first of all, formation.gg. Have you got that down, listeners? Viewers, obviously, you can see it on the screen behind me. But for listeners, formation.gg to go and find about the esports that Lucas was talking about. And then I really like this website, the Sarlat Rugby website. It's really, really good. Even the president and the board have got the rugby shirts on. I can't ever see Dom on the pitch. Right, Sarlat Rugby. And let me spell that out for you, listeners. SARLAT, sarlatrugby.com. A beautiful place, Sarlat. I think it's the 7th most visited beauty spot in France. Now, so
yeah, that's
Formation,
correct.
is it formation.gg and sarlatrugby.com. So, and remember, put Sarlat onto your must go to when we're allowed to travel again. Lucas, it's time for part 2. Now, this may seem a negative question, but I think it's a valid one. What's your thoughts on losing? After all, we all do it at some time, and the pandemic has illustrated that. How do you and your team regain motivation, create resilience? What part does analysis play?
Well, I love the question, and I don't think it's negative at all. Actually, I take it the positive way. It might be just me, but I hate losing. Right. And I've always been this way, and I think it's a positive thing because it drives you further. I honestly hate to lose, and I'm not saying this as a joke. I remember when I was back in Argentina that I had a lot of people coming to see us in the games that were relatives, friends, family, even my wife. If I lost the game, I wouldn't even talk to them. I wouldn't even say hi after the game. Yeah. I would just go straight away off the pitch into the changing room and live again every single sequence of the game in my head. What have I done wrong? How can I get better? What do we need to do as a team to get better? And the analysis starts right away, right? So, and I think that's how you push your limits. If you get comfortable and, hey, okay, we did a good game. We lost, but we did a good game. Yeah, but that's not enough. I mean, it might sound, a bit weird, but that's how I feel. And I hate losing. So I'll do everything in my power to not lose again.
Yeah. I mean, what you're basically saying is you're not doing as so many people, and we have an expression in England is go and kick the cat. You're not going to go and sulk. What you're going to do is go back and think hard and deep as to how you can win next time.
Yeah. Even in my dreams, I mean, at night when I go to sleep, I can't sleep because I keep reliving the game one time and again and again and again. And then I'll go texting my friends and my team members, hey, we need to focus into this, into that. We need to, tomorrow, let's get training, and let's get this game off our heads. And then after that, usually I would say the game day, that's a bit negative thinking. What I'd like to do is transform all that energy into what I call positive psychology. So don't get stuck with what happened, but what are we going to do next?
Yeah.
To succeed.
Yeah.
So instead of, hey, why have you done this? Or you shouldn't be acting like that. No, what you intend to say is in the next action, we should do this.
Yeah.
And that transforms automatically into positive action. And it's a very good motivation source.
Yeah. I mean, because that's what people are looking for from a leader, aren't they? They're looking for that, the answer, the direction, the vision, the let's get up and do it, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, motivation is one of the probably the biggest thing and passion that push you through.
Yeah.
But I am a firm believer that one of the best ways to motivate people is through example.
Yeah.
And that's always been a bit of my philosophy in terms of leading. So lead with example. We even have that here in-house in Unicorn. I mean, we always do things first ourselves before telling other people to do it. So we prove that it works. We show them how to do it. And then, hey, this is what you need to be doing, because we prove it's the right path,
Brilliant. Yeah. I've really enjoyed that part, Lucas. Thank you. But let's move to part 3. And I'm back talking about you personally. What's your personal thoughts on where does the synergy between sport and business work for you, especially with your work with both Unicorn and Formation.gg and other projects? What are you proud about, what you brought to the business table?
Well, there's a lot to speak there, but I remember when I told my mom that I was getting married, her first reaction was, but how are you going to sustain the family? You're just a rugby player. It's like, Mom, I'm getting married. I mean, you should be happy about that, not worrying about those extras.
Hey,
But
you're
in one
a
sense,
little boy. You're a little boy. She's going to be worried,
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And now thinking a couple of years after that, I can see her point too. I mean, not the way I would have said it, but that brought me, for instance, into thinking what's going to be after rugby, how I can make an impact. And that's how I met Dom here at Unicorn. And when we met and we started talking about the projects and the ambitions that we had and what we were trying to achieve, we came up with this very interesting idea. And it's not just an idea right now, it's a project that we've got ongoing that's called Rugby Plus. And what we intend to fix is this exact problem. Rugby players in almost, I can't tell you a percentage, but a lot of them, they play rugby until they are 30, 35 years old.
Right.
But then when it's hard to get back into the real world afterwards, and there's just a few that don't ever need to work after that, right?
Yeah.
The vast majority needs to jump into a job. And if they've done nothing on the professional matter until then, it's very hard to just jumping in anywhere. So what we are trying to solve with Rugby Plus is to allow people to play professional rugby, but at the same time, giving them the opportunity to work on a business, on a startup, in specific things like sales, marketing, things that we know how to do it, so we can teach them and have this synergy of playing rugby, professional rugby, because it will be professional starting next season. I always tend to confuse the years with the seasons, because for me it goes from July to June instead of regular years. So that's what we are trying to fix with Rugby Plus.
I really applaud you on that, because it's the same with all sport, isn't it? Everybody thinks footballers are all on mega bucks. They're not on mega bucks, many of them in the leagues further down, are they?
I'm happy that you bring that to the table, because this is just a proof of concept.
Yeah.
That this works, and that we are trying to show the world with a bigger machine, a bigger platform that's called Sport Plus, SportX, SportX, that we can give to every team, not just rugby.
Yeah.
In terms of branding, marketing, finding solutions to their problems. Because when we first took in the rugby club in here, we found a lot of skeletons hidden, that every single club, no matter what sport they do, they experience the same problems, right?
Mm.
So we are finding a way to solve them and to show people how we can step in, help every single team become their own leaders.
Yeah. Another reason I applaud you and what you're doing is that so many former players, and, you know, I've been involved in marketing and management on basketball, ice hockey, football, Olympics for many, many years there. I find the sad thing is so many players, suddenly it stopped. And as you quite rightly say, they hadn't managed the transition. And unfortunately, so many commit suicide as well, don't they? Because they just don't know which way to go. It's frightening, that.
Yeah, it's quite sad, to be honest. Yeah. And I think if you see the statistics, American football is one of the worst.
Yeah.
Lead by NBA, if I'm not wrong. And those are probably the sports that pay the most. So it's not a matter of how much you earn. It's a mentality. It's how do you think about economics and finance and your future, you know?
Yeah.
They keep living their lives as if they were earning millions a month, but they are not anymore.
Yeah.
And they've done nothing, no investments to solve that. No, because there's plenty of ways to do it, right? You can get a job, you can be a consultant, you can run a startup, you can be an investor and earn dividends or shares, or there's plenty of ways. It's infinite. I mean,
yeah.
But you need to think about it and get going.
And plan, as you quite rightly say early. Don't leave it until happy birthday, you're 35, and suddenly, you know, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
It's frightening. Yeah.
And one thing that we are, sorry.
Yeah, carry on.
Because we've also seen that, you know, as an ambition maybe for the young people, the young players, they tend to forget about their studies or their investments or anything because they want to become a professional player.
Mm-hmm.
I've been there. I mean, I know how they feel and why do they want to do it, and I'm totally in for that. But at the same time, I carry on studying, even when I was a professional rugby player. So I insist on doing that and never let your mind stop just because you have this dream. Because I've met hundreds of people that bad luck, big injury, any other excuse or problem that they've experienced and they were not expecting it. And boom, rugby's over, and then you've got nothing left. And if you've got nothing that drives you, what do you do?
I've got you. So go and tell me, what's your mama saying now then?
Oh, she's thrilled. And I had a daughter 5 months ago.
Oh, congratulations. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And this time her reaction was way better. She was very happy to see that.
That's a great outcome, And totally. Sadly, it's my time to be almost leaving France. At BizVision, we've been closely involved in the business of sport for many years, basketball, ice hockey, football, 2012 Olympics. We know the dedication that sports athletes make to their sport. And we trust that this interview, and also watch the one with a colleague of Lucas, Serafan Bordoli, will help those many thousands of sports professionals make an easier transition to a successful future. Many thanks, Lucas Caneda, for a great interview.
Malcolm, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.